Welcome to Robert Bellissimo at the Movies. This is a podcast where I explore movies from all over the world and talk about how those stories are told on film, as well as interview all kinds of film and television or theater professionals about their life and career. Today, I have a very, very special guest, Devin Brochu, who has a really impressive filmography. Just to go over a few of these credits: In the Valley of Elah with Tommy Lee Jones and Charlize Theron, Ghost of Girlfriend's Past, that's with Matthew McConaughey, Hesher, which he was the star of with Natalie Portman and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and most recently Managed with Janaé Rachel Ballot as the director and Savannah Ballot, his co-star. And of course, I talked to both of them on the podcast about that, about Managed in the past. So Devin, welcome. So glad that you can join me today.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. I'm excited to have a little combo with you and carry on the Manage Part 2 series, I guess.
Yeah, no, I've been talking to Janaé about it, so I'm looking forward to more of the episodes coming out. I want to go back because you've been and worked with some of the greatest talents at when you were a kid. So how did you originally get interested in acting? What got you into it?
Yeah, man. I mean, I guess it's kind of a long story, but to start from the beginning, I guess ever since I was a little kid, I was always just obsessed with movies. I was always watching movies, sitting in front of that box. And what's it called? Yeah, that was back, like I was born in 96. So, I was still kind of around the VHSs a little bit, still mainly DVDs in my lifetime as a kid, but still little VHSs. I still have
right at the tail end.
Yeah, so I still have like the collection of like all the Disney VHSs and stuff like that. So I was just obsessed and just like consumed with movies. And I don't know, I think my brother and I have two brothers. My younger brother and I, we would always go to Blockbuster once a week. Blockbuster, isn't that so weird to say? We'd always go to Blockbuster once a week because we have a weekly movie night. And my parents were very smart. It was a strategy that I was unaware of before at that age, but we would go pick out our movies at Blockbuster. He can pick out one, I could pick out one, they go pick out their own, they go watch their movie, we go watch our movie. I was just like, consumed with just that world and taking it all in. And yeah, my parents, they both worked pretty busy careers. So I had my brother and I both had nannies quite a lot, and they would just always, I don't really remember this very much, but they would report back to my parents saying like, oh, everyone always tells us that, your kids, they should get into the industry or like, into like modeling or something like that. Cause we're 17 months apart. And at that age, we looked even more similar than we do now. And my parents always like dressed us the same outfits and everything. So like, they would always hear things like that too. And then, so they were like, yeah, if you want to do it, then sure. Like they like it, whatever, then great. If not, then they don't have to do it. So, but I was also living in Florida at this time. That's where I was born.
Right.
So I was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This was by the time I was maybe around like 5 or 6 years old. So I started just kind of doing, I guess, the old traditional, way of getting into it, where I took a bunch of acting classes, and then my brother and I started going to a bunch of different workshops in Florida and attending showcases and whatnot. And then eventually at one of these showcases, both of us got picked up by a small boutique commercial agency. So from there, we both signed, and we'd go out for auditions together and separately. And yeah, we were just getting a lot of good work. I was starting to build up, my resume. I was doing like, commercials like this is all in Florida. So like Disney World, Pembroke Pines Resort Golf Course. What else? Hallmark, doing different like modeling jobs like Skechers and like British Airways and Talbots and other magazines, Disney World, stuff like that. Yeah.
So you were doing a lot of stuff even before you headed out to LA.
Yeah, I was auditioning a ton in Florida. Yeah, I was always going out for auditions and just going to classes. Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't realize there was that much opportunity even in a state like Florida. So even where you were, sounds like there was a lot of work.
Yeah, and it was cool because going to all these showcases and stuff at that age, you know, it allowed me to build that community, you know, build that actors community, even though it was a community, it's a small one in Florida.
Right.
A lot of those people ended up, you know, going to LA eventually, like I ended up, and so that was great. And I feel like a lot of the times, I mean, that's kind of like the more traditional route everyone is always set to do, like, you know, go to, you know, casting workshops so you can, like, obviously, yeah, get the tips and the advice from the CDs, but also so you can just get your face in front of them. And then people are always saying after that, you know, definitely go to showcases, try to get signed, and then go out for auditions. Like that's always been like I guess the way.
Right.
So and these days I feel like usually, I mean, just with social media and stuff and creating your own content, all that stuff, it's not really a popular route anymore. And
Right.
I don't think people are doing that so much. So and you know, there's pros and cons, but the good thing was that it allowed me to be around other people and to, like, you know, form a community, which then after, you know, getting, you know, my resume building up a bit, I was able to go take trips to Los Angeles, and we would go as like groups and go as yeah, just like, you know, friends. And we would stay at like the Holiday Inn hotel in Burbank for like months on end, just for like temporarily staying here and living here for like pilot season. And yeah, and then going back and forth. So yeah, that's what I started to do. That was the first time I started really coming out to LA, was during pilot season, and just temporarily living here, just going out for auditions. I ended up signing with Osbrink, and then from there I eventually, yeah, actually, well, it took a couple different pilot seasons for me to actually book anything.
Right.
I think it was like 2 or 3 times I ended up, you know, coming back before, you know, I was doing pretty well. I was getting a good amount of auditions. I was getting called back in the room, decent amount, but it was like 2 or 3 trips, I want to say. And so I finally booked a co-star in CSI New York, and I
Yeah,
was
I
just
saw
like,
that. Yeah, so that was the
like,
first. That was one of yes, TV credit. Just going back, so when you're going back and forth between Fort Lauderdale and LA, because you said your parents had very busy careers, so how did they manage to, like, was one of them with you, both of them with you? How did that work?
So a lot of the times, my father was staying in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, and then my mom, she would end up, you know, coming to Los Angeles with my brother and I for longer periods of time. And then if anything, my dad would, you know, visit for days here and there.
Okay.
But it was mainly like my mom and then my younger brother for the longer periods of time. And then yeah, and then we would eventually, after like the third time, eventually my mom was like, okay, I'm gonna actually start to consider maybe leaving my career and focusing a little bit on helping them with theirs. So at that point, things started to shift a little bit.
I see. Okay, great. And so you start off with CSI, and then I see that you were on Joey, and
Hmm.
then of course you got In the Valley of Elah with Charlize
Yeah,
Theron and Tommy Lee Jones, and Paul Greengrass was the director. How did that? Sorry, Paul Haggis.
yeah,
How did that? Was that just simply auditioning and getting it, or how did that come about?
yeah. Yeah. So after I did CSI New York, it's just crazy. First of all, I felt like after I booked CSI New York, I remember that moment so specifically because it was just like, okay, finally, like this is like the one, you know, project, you know, can you make it, it feels like it's your breakthrough or something, you know, even
Yeah,
though it's just
of
like a little
course.
co-star role.
Right.
And it was just like
But
2
it
scenes
feels
and then,
huge, of course, that
yeah,
when you're on TV for the first time.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like 2 scenes, and one of the scenes I'm playing dead, but it's just like, oh my God.
Yes.
But I remember that moment so clearly. I remember I was I was in the parking lot in Burbank in front of like this, it used to be like CNC pet food right there in that plaza, and finding out, I was like, wow, this is life changing. So, because
Yeah.
I remember it was like the second or third time we were, you know, out here. So it was like, okay, is this gonna be, you know, another try after, or like what's gonna happen? So it was at that point where it needed to happen. So I got that, and then that went great. I was also so thrilled to know that I was going to be shooting with Eddie Cahill, because he plays Jim Craig, the goaltender of Team USA in Miracle. I was just so excited because I have a big hockey background. I've been playing since I was 2. I'm a goaltender myself. I've seen that movie probably more times than I've seen any movie, probably.
Yeah.
I'd always watch that like Friday nights before game day. After CSI New York, segue, I booked Joey, and that was so fun. That was only like one scene, I think, and I just remember, the only memory I really have of this is I don't remember what the scene was about at all. All I remember was that I was just trying not to laugh.
Were you with Matt LeBlanc? Did you have a scene?
I was with Matt LeBlanc. It was me and one other character, like accompanying me in a shop or something. And then Matt LeBlanc comes in, and then he's addressing both of us, but like 50-50, if not addressing me quite a bit. And I don't have any lines or anything, just actions and reactions. And the whole time I'm just like, I don't even remember what the scene was about, but I just remember like, please, Devin, like I was maybe like 6 or I was maybe 7 years old, or maybe 8 years old, or something like that. I know, my bad, my apologies. At this time, I was actually around.
You would have been about 9, I guess, right?
9 years old. Yeah, I would have been like 9 or 10, 9 or 10. My bad. Yeah, 9 or 10. So what was I just talking about? My bad.
That you were trying so hard not to laugh.
Oh yeah, so I was just trying so hard not to laugh, and I was just like, all right. At that age, I was like, damn, I'm gonna be like fired. I'm gonna be like, sent offset, because I'm not gonna be able to contain it in. I was like having those thoughts at that age, because I was just like, this is my second project. Like, I'm not gonna be taken seriously. Like, people are gonna think I'm so unprofessional, and I'm like just trying to hold it in, and just like at the same time, like make sure my face doesn't turn into like a tomato at the same time. But then I guess they finally found a take that was usable, and moved on from there. But and then after CSI, or no, my bad, after Joey, I did a what was it, a Hallmark TV movie, a supporting role, and then I did a movie with Matt Donovan, and then after that I got the best project I had ever hoped for at that point, In the Valley of Elah.
Yeah.
And some people say Elah, some people say Elah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was Elah.
I've stuck with Elah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this,
I've heard both.
I mean, wow. I mean, just the cast alone. And Paul, you got, as I said, Tommy Lee Jones, Charlize Theron, Jonathan Tucker, who is a really, really great actor, Jason Patrick, Susan Sarandon, James Franco, Josh Brolin. It's got Francis Fisher. It's got a massive cast.
Yeah.
So I know you had that great scene with Tommy Lee Jones where he's talking to you right before you go to bed, and Charlize Theron, who plays your mother in this, right in the doorway. What was the experience on this like, and how did it come to you in a traditional way? You auditioned and got it?
Yeah, pretty much. I think I had maybe like 3 auditions for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like 3 auditions, and then and then I didn't even, at that point, I was still pretty young. I was maybe like 10 or 11 tops. Yeah. So I didn't even know who Charlize Theron was. At that point,
that's what I was wondering. I'm like, were you aware of who
at
these
that point,
people were?
I was just like doing my thing. Like I was probably like, it was good for me that I was able to go into like such a big situation and like a big set, and like kind of be a little bit ignorant in a way, because it actually like kind of automatically like humbles you.
Yeah, and you're relaxed. So, you're not, you're not, oh my God, I'm around all these mega stars, and
getting like all what's it called, starstruck or anything.
Exactly.
But yeah, so like I mean, because I was like 10 years old, I never saw Monster.
Right.
And no, not yet. So I was just, she was awesome. She was just so, I just remember her being so like just so easygoing, and like, so she was always just so like present, and like she was very social for sure. She talked a lot with me. In between takes, we definitely chatted a lot. Oh my God, I remember this, I'll always remember this story. There was this one time in between a take, she just looks at me and she's like, "Hey, Devin." And then I'm just like, yeah. And then she goes, "Can you crack your neck?" And then I probably just looked like dumbfounded and like, I don't know, whatever. And I was like, "Huh?" And then she just goes, and then I'm just like, and makes like a sound, cracks her neck in like a way I didn't even know a neck can make a crackling sound. And I was just like, what the heck? And then she pulls out in like a very sly manner, just pulls out a plastic water bottle.
Oh, I see.
And then
It's almost like a magic trick.
Yeah, just pulls out a plastic water bottle and then just like has like a smile on her face. And I was just like, oh, I was just like astonished.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so she was always very fun. And then at that point, I actually did know who Paul Haggis was, because my brother and I, we were obsessed with the movie Crash.
Yeah.
We had the DVD and so we watched it just a million times at that point. So I was excited to work with him for sure. He was very easygoing and always just excited when he was talking. I remember that. And yeah, Tommy Lee Jones, he was also just like such a great figure for me to be around at that age, because, like I said, I wasn't really thinking about where this, was going to take me in any way, whether it be like creatively or as a career or in any manner, shape, or form. But I did take it seriously because I wanted to make sure that, my performance was good so that it served the story well. So I definitely cared about that. And at a young age. And Tommy was just like, a great figure to have on set, because he's like the epitome, like primetime example of just like professionalism and just, very much just putting the work first and getting the job done. And, not in like a stickler way or anything, but in like I'm here to do something kind of way. And
Right.
I really appreciated that. And it was definitely inspiring for me to see. And so yeah, we had a great time. I remember that one scene that you referenced, where he's telling me the David and Goliath story in bed.
Right. It's a great scene.
It is a great scene, but there's this hilarious moment that I haven't really told many people, where we were holding for a plane, and while we were holding, he was just locked in character, focused, while we were still holding for the plane, still rolling. And after a couple moments, sound goes, okay, like we're good when you hold. And then before Paul can call action, he's like, wait, and everyone like stops for a second, and he's like, there's still a plane. and then everyone just like looks at each other in silence, and then the sound's like, no, we're good, we're clear, we're good to go. And then he's like, all right, let's go. And then he's like, no, wait, there's still a plane. And then sounds like doesn't know what to do. And Tommy's just like, still like completely like zoned in his character, like completely focused in. And then a couple moments passed, and it was just like very intense. And it felt like minutes instead of just like probably like 5 seconds. And then he was like, okay. And then we just like shot like as if nothing ever happened. And then afterwards, we were just like, joking the whole time about how he has like, sonic hearing.
He can hear
he can out-hear better than a sound guy. Yeah.
What did you get any insight into sort of how they worked as actors, just watching them on set? I mean, you mentioned they're very present, very professional, but did you notice them doing anything that helped you as an actor in other projects?
I'm trying to think. At that, I definitely, for Tommy anyways, he was very much, I definitely observed that he was, less social than some other actors, like to be. I know some actors love to be social, some actors love to be a little bit more reclusive to themselves. And I understand that. I like to do both depending on the day. I mean, it depends whether or not, what type of energy like I need. And also depends on like, if I'm about to prepare like, or do a, shoot an emotional scene, for example, then I'm probably going to want to be like living inside my head for a while before that. So I understand that, but he, so, he's very to himself kind of guy, very kept to his own space. He always was reading. He always had a big book in his hand. So anytime he was in between takes, or we were setting up new shots or whatever, he was just reading, and he was always just very calm and peaceful. And I felt like some of those things that he did, kept him in this like state of mind that just allowed him to perform very well and just very fluid. And yeah, easily. Yeah,
I could see that with him. I don't know why, but there's something about his demeanor that he looks like someone who would be kind of keep to himself.
You know what
quiet.
I mean? Yeah, very zen in a way.
Yeah, exactly. But I've heard just from other actors in interviews that Charlize is very, very outgoing. Very funny on sets and stuff like that. Was that from what you said, that was 100%. So was she the opposite? Was she much more social and kidding around?
100%. Yeah, definitely more kidding around. Those scenes that we shot together, I'm trying to recall, I don't think any of them were like, called for any like heavy emotional prep.
Right.
So, right. I mean, it makes sense. So yeah, she was definitely just like joking around a lot more. We, were chatting a lot in between takes. And I had, just a good time trying not to, reveal my overwhelming crush for her.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean,
anyone.
Charlize Theron as your mother, it's a little like, oh no,
couldn't
it be something else?
I know, right? Anyone at that time would have, or at that age and anything, would have definitely understood what I meant. Like, oh my God, like to have her as my mom, I was like, Devin, like, again, back to like the Joey thing, being professional. I was like, she's my mom, Devin, for Christ's sake. And my dad would always joke to everyone because there's a scene where we're kind of like cuddling in bed as she reads me a story. And my dad would always joke to everyone and say like, oh, my son's been in bed with Charlize Theron. Yeah, she's amazing. She's beautiful. Yeah. She's an amazing actress. She just keeps coming, and all of the action stuff she does is just like insane. And
I know.
She's such a badass woman.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Did you mentioned Monster, but did you see her and Tommy Lee Jones in other films like later on and think, oh my God, how did I work with these people?
That's pretty much what happened. Yeah, pretty much exactly what happened. Later on, I guess I just kind of like caught up, and as I grew up, I was just like, wow, okay, that was a pretty big deal. And I can kind of, I knew it was a big deal because I could sense that other people around, when they heard about it, based off their reactions and stuff, that, you can see like it resonate with other people. But to me, it was just, I don't know, I just had so much fun, like on set, and just being with new people and being away from school. Like I hated school. So anytime I can just be on set instead of school, and just being in front of the camera and like, learning all those, those skills and developing them, and building a foundation, from at an early age, while not even, considering what I want to do with it, I think was very positive for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What a first feature film to be in. I mean, that's so that's so incredible. And
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And then right after that, you played a young Matthew McConaughey. Now that you're older, I can see the resemblance even more so. In Ghost of Girlfriends Past. So what was was this a flashback to him as a kid, I imagine?
Exactly. So yeah, man. So I played the younger version of Matt, and I was just so lucky because, I mean, if you've seen the film, then you know that, like you said, his character and Emma Stone's character revisit the flashback. So it was amazing because it gave me the opportunity to actually meet him. And it's funny because although he was in the scene with Emma, and it was happening simultaneously, even though it was a flashback at the same time, both our characters had to ignore them and almost act like imagine they weren't there. So I don't know if that technically counts as working with them, but I'll slash that. I'll tally that up as working with them.
It does for sure.
So
what were he like, or anyone else on the cast?
Yeah, so Emma was a sweetheart. She was just, very, very giggly and very just positive energy type of spirit. and Matt was just as friendly and just as giving. I remember during the end of a lunch one day, he stood up to make an announcement, and he ended up giving everyone a hat that was from his JK Living Foundation company that he has in dedication of his father. So yeah, so I still have that hat today, and so he's very, very giving, very just very down to earth. I'm just glad that we were able to be, scheduled the same day, let alone, be in the same scene, to be able to, yeah, just meet and hang out and get that experience. Yeah.
No, that's incredible. I mean, he's had such an iconic career. This was just before Dallas Buyers Club, but I
Yeah.
mean, but still, I mean, he had been around for it's almost as if that was part 2 of his career, because he started doing so many like romantic comedies,
all the rom-coms, yeah,
for so many years, and then all of a sudden he's reinvented himself in a way. Wow, I mean, that's incredible.
Couldn't have said it better. And I couldn't have said it better. And what's it called? Actually, what I want to ask you was, have you read his memoir?
I haven't actually. I haven't.
Dude, oof, it's so good.
Yeah, I should read that.
It's a great read. I got it right when it came out and I breezed through it. But then after I got it and already read it, I found out that he actually narrates the audiobook. So I was a little bummed that I didn't find that out, because I would definitely listen to that since he's narrating it with that voice. Hey, so maybe you want to listen to it instead.
Yeah, no, I'll have to look that up. I forgot he wrote a memoir, so I'll have to check that out. And then of course, right after this, we have your leading performance in Hesher. This was directed by Spencer Susser and Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Natalie Portman, Rainn Wilson, and wow, Piper Laurie, who I've always loved, John Carroll Lynch. How did this film come to you? Was it also the traditional auditioning route?
Yep, a lot of auditions, man. You got to go out for thousands just to be called back for for exactly. So it's trial and error and repetition. So I speaking of which, I went out for one audition, got called back, went out for another one, got called back, went out for another one. And at this point I was like, is this a callback, or is this just another audition, or can I call this like a producer's call, or can I call this a director's call? Like, what can I call this? So I ended up taking, I forgot the exact number, but it was in between 8 to 10 auditions.
Wow.
/ working sessions with Spencer and Joe.
Wow. I could see why, because the role was so demanding, and the range that you had to bring to it. So I can understand, but that's a lot. 8, wow.
Yeah,
8
you definitely,
and mini workshops at the same time. Is that what was happening? Kind of rehearsing?
Essentially, yeah. So like I went out for probably like 3 or 4, probably like three tops 4 auditions where I was like with the CDs and then maybe Spencer at the last one, and then after that the last like 4 or 5, however many, I think it was like 4 or 5, were just sessions where we would meet up for maybe like a couple hours to maybe even like 3 hours and just bunker in a room and go through the script together, talk about the character, go through different scenes, go through different situations, talk about motives and intentions, talk about everything. And eventually, after like almost 10 auditions, finally end up getting the call. And it was one of those things where, like, after going out so many times and building a relationship with them, after working with them creatively and spending all that time in such a short time window, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I should be getting this. Like, I think I got this. Like, like I'm waiting for the offer, but
right.
I think I got this. Like, I obviously didn't know if they were continuing to test other people at that point, but I don't know. I felt pretty secure. I mean, we also had a great relationship already, but at the same time, I was just like, I need the offer for me to like have peace of mind and go to sleep. Like, so then, so once I got the offer, it was just the best news I had ever heard at that point in my life.
No, wow, I can totally imagine. And what sort of things were they doing in the like, was it, did they go through the whole script, or was it just like the hardest scenes, or what was that like?
Man, it was a little bit of everything. We did a lot of things, anything from different exercises to the point where sometimes it felt like we were almost putting on like, like an acting class or like a workshop or something,
Right.
we were just trying to find where TJ lives, and trying to, because Spencer knows this story so well, and it's ingrained in him, and he's looking for everything, and it's specific, and he wanted to make sure that I would be able to carry that weight, because as you said, it is a very demanding role.
Yeah.
And TJ goes through more shit than most kids ever go through, and you have to dig for sure. So I think that putting me through that rigorous test was almost was almost necessary and called for, because it was a prerequisite test for the main test.
Yeah. No, I could totally understand that. And was Joseph Gordon-Levitt involved in that process, or Natalie Portman?
Natalie wasn't, but Joseph was. So
Okay.
out of so I want to say it was like around 8 to 10. So like total auditions, but as for just the working sessions, like say 4 or 5, and he had to have been a part of like at least 2 or 3.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me earlier today that you had the added benefit, of course, of Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Natalie Portman both being child actors as well. So
exactly,
were they extra helpful as a result of knowing what you were experiencing?
That was, I couldn't have had any better mentors literally at that age, as freshly, I think I just had turned 13. Like I was freshly 13 or turning 13. So I was still very young and naive. So it was very good to have just 2 epitome examples of successful child actors who not only were just successful child actors, but have continually, put out better and better and better projects and better work, and advance their career in a more, not just lucrative, but creative way.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
And it's just, Joe, like he always made sure that, I felt like he almost thought that, not like I was like a liability, but in a way he almost felt like he had to make sure I was taken care of in like almost like a older brother kind of fashion.
Right.
Where,
right.
It wasn't like a distraction or anything, but he didn't have to do it, but he wanted to make sure that it wasn't his job. Spencer could have handled that, but he wanted to make sure that I was good and that the environment was set for us to work together properly. And we had a lot of little things that we like to do, a little, to get us going together. So it was just, he always treated, I was 13 years old. I was, treated like a 13-year-old kid a lot of the times. And he always treated me like I wasn't a 13-year-old kid. He always treated me like I was, I felt like he always treated me like I would have treated someone at his, caliber, like someone at his equal, or like at least like a young adult or something like that. But the way he treated me was just so refreshing. He was a friend as opposed to, an adult.
Yeah.
I guess, you can have, at that age, you can have friends who are adults, but you still see them as like your friends, and then you're, I guess your friends who are adults. But he was a friend, and he was just always very open and honest with me about anything. And yeah, I remember there were some tough takes, or tough days for sure, where very long days. I remember one day in particular, we were shooting all day, very, very, very late. It was super cold, and it was we had to do the scene in Hesher where I'm hopping over the backyard to the bully's house. I believe his name is Dustin, I think. And
this is the other young kid, right? Who was you and him were fighting a lot. He worked at the, I know who you mean.
Hesher, with the spiky hair. And then I go in to try to cut his toe off.
Oh yes,
and then he comes in breaking the glass and everything. Yeah, and it it was just a long day, long night. We've already been shooting for a while, and it was freezing cold. And then having to reset every take, having to drench myself again. And then I had to, like, not only be sitting in layers of thick, wet clothing when it was freezing, but just crawling through like the doggy door and everything, and hopping through fences and stuff like that. So, and everything afterwards, after when we shot too, whenever I had to really learn how to take on media for the first time, going to Sundance and doing interviews and Q&As and stuff like that, like I never was into any of that. Like I like acting, but I don't know, I'm not into posing for pictures. And I'll talk to someone like you who's down to talk about, like, things that we're passionate about, but I'm not into, like, having to do cheesy red carpet interviews. And it was very intimidating at that age too.
Of course, yeah.
And but
I saw
really
some of them on YouTube. Some of them are
cringe.
some of them are up there.
I wish I could delete some of them.
Yeah. you in one of the interviews I found, you had mentioned, because people kept asking you, how did you get to these lengths? And because the part, like, it was, for one thing, was very physical. You had to cry a lot or get very angry, and like these, really, it was a wide range. And you were saying that, well, we practiced with the director, with Joseph. And so when you say that you practice with them, what exactly, how did that practice help? How did that work? And how did they help you to get there?
For sure. Yeah. Well, as you said, yeah, we did a lot of rehearsing. So the rehearsing alone, going into shooting, even though there were some changes here and there, since we've rehearsed so much, and I figured out who TJ was, and I figured out my relationship with, the other characters. At that point, I felt very, very strongly confident about each scene, and I was ready to shoot. So going into shooting, because we rehearsed so much, I feel like we were able to just have so much flexibility to just go and to just play and create new things that we have already talked about, or things that we wanted to try, or things that we had new opportunities that came up to try. So yeah, as for like the emotional aspect of it, I mean, for me, I've always been a very thinking forward person, I guess. Like I'm very I love to reflect, and I love to get deep into my emotions, for sure. I guess that's why I act. And I guess that's why I love doing dark drama stuff. But but yeah, so I kind of combine a lot of things whenever I act. I don't really do what a lot of people do, where they say they kind of stick to like one lane. At that age, I know, like, at this age, I know the names of different things I've studied, but at that age, I've done, different, training and classes and stuff, but I didn't even consider, like, acting styles or anything.
Right,
I just used my imagination and pretended and got into the moment, and really, expressed something that I truly felt through this character, which is cliche to say, but whenever you can find something of yourself that is very connected to you, and it makes sense in the context of a line or something, or in the scene in general, then it's so cathartic. So that's why I love it, and I enjoy it, even though it's very brutal work sometimes. Just like accomplishing it is just like the best feeling ever. So I use a lot of imagination and a lot of substitution techniques, and Spencer was the closest person to me on set, and we spent so much time together, not just in the auditioning process, but just hanging out before shooting, and obviously seeing each other every day on set, eating every lunch together, all that. So he, I really trusted him, and he built a trust with me that he earned, and allowed me to open up to him and be vulnerable to him in ways that he can, now understand how where I'm at psychologically and what affects me, what buttons he could push, and how he could talk to me, what memories or certain experiences he can bring back up and guide me through them, almost in like a
He's
meditational
almost like
way,
a teacher
even,
in a way. He almost sounds
Yeah.
like he was a teacher in a way. Wow.
Yeah, so sometimes he did that. Sometimes for very emotional scenes, I remember like even before oh yeah, for example, one of the last scenes where it's the emotional blowout scene in the end where we're pushing down we're pushing grandma's casket down the
Yes.
street, the last
Yeah.
chance for a walk. And yeah, that was heavy. So I remember in particular that instance, we were before we were getting going, we were inside the funeral home in just this small secluded closet room, whatever, to find some like quiet and peace and space. And we were kind of just going through some, it is almost meditations in a way, almost like a visualizations. And I love that. I love visualizations. I love meditations. I love, coming from like a sports hockey background too, visualizations are so important. And just being able to, put yourself there
Right.
emotionally and mentally, and then after setting into your environment there too. So so I really just, allowed myself to open up to him, and we trusted each other so much where he just knew how I worked, and he knew things about me that other people didn't know. He knew what affected me, and he knew when I needed to be pushed. He knew when he needed to just let me be. So yeah, it unraveled very organically, and it was just a very easy going process working with him. I would work with him any other day.
That's incredible. I mean, it's incredible to have that experience with a director, because that's so rare that directors would know how to communicate that well with an actor, unless they've been an actor themselves or in the theater, let's say. So that sounds really, really incredible. I mean, from what you've been saying, you took classes in various classes in Florida and LA, but the combination of also working on set and auditioning, all these things happening at once, you probably were just learning so much from on the job class, on the job, all that. Whereas I guess most actors, it's like they take classes for a number of years and then they start auditioning it. And so you were sort of, part of the mixing that blender, so to speak, immediately. So that's pretty.
Exactly. I'm
pretty
blessed
remarkable.
I'm blessed that I started early so that I can pay my dues and due diligence and just put in the hours, because it definitely allowed me to. I think it's always better to learn something by doing it, So yeah, you learn a lot by going to class and putting up scenes and working on improv and all that stuff and getting critiqued and bringing it back and working on it. But I mean, you're not going to learn necessarily on camera stuff unless, okay, then you have to go to an on camera workshop intensive, whatever. But everything is just like,
it's a different animal, as
just,
you know.
You're doing it. So that's the best way to learn if you're doing it. So
absolutely.
It was very fortunate, because I think when you're doing it, you can develop skills at a lot faster rate, and obviously just settle in and feel more comfortable and confident, which is the most important when you're acting. It's just obviously being confident, prepared, and relaxed.
Yeah, no, that's really, really great. And of course, you had these great scenes with Natalie Portman, but this time she's not your mother like Charlize. You have a big crush on her.
Yeah.
So I imagine that was easy to develop, or how was that?
Yeah, man, I definitely very easy transition there, that's to say the least. She's also just a sweetheart. She actually very much, like, I never thought about this until now, since we're talking about Natalie and Charlize. I feel like they had a very similar just energy, very similar, just easygoing presence. And she never was very serious. She was always pretty light. She was very fun on set. I mean, we had some pretty emotional scenes together too. And
especially when you find them having that scene where you find them having sex, and then you really tear into both of them. That was such a great scene.
Yeah, man, that was intense. I
Yeah.
remember that one clearly. Yeah, she for all the scenes where I was crushing on her and she was saving me and I was getting her ice cream, that was a no-brainer. But for all the emotional stuff, like where for example, there's one scene where she, after our day in the pool where Hesher abandons us, we go back to her car and she realizes that she has a ticket on her car.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it becomes, and she becomes hysterical, and it really affects me and my character. So I just, it astonishes me that she can just take after take go from 0 to 100 like that. And at the same time, if I was going from, oh, having a great time, walking into, oh, I got a ticket, oh, my life is fucked. Like, those are 3 discoveries that happen so fucking, sorry, can I curse?
Yeah, go ahead.
Man, those are 3 discoveries that happen so fucking fast, where it's like, it gives, like, that arc is insane, where for an actor to pull that off is tough. Like, if I was working on that to pull something like that off, like, before the scene, I would definitely, be focused in, away from other people, like, needing to be hot coming into this, to pull that off, I feel like. And then I can do it. But she's just like, being herself, and then the take starts, and then it's just like, where the fuck did that come from?
Wow.
And it's like, how can you just drop into that? Like, some actors, like, can get like maybe a take or maybe 2 where they crush.
Yeah.
But you're just like, every time, like, wow, you must be hydrated. Like, how do you do that? So like, yeah, just watching her perform at that level is just like so inspiring and made my job so easy, because I mean, just watching her was, enough for me to, have my character be affected. So, and obviously, like, yeah, just watching her, letting that affect me, the fact that, she's just an absolute sweetheart, and the fact that our characters are so, I mean, my character has such a relationship with her, where it's really the only thing that is kind of keeping him going and the only positive thing in his life right now. So so yeah, I mean, it's I don't even know where I was going with that. I was talking about Natalie, but
well, but you bring up a good point, because that was what I like so much about the relationship that you had with her in the film, was that even though at the end she's sort of, obviously you can't be with her, she's like, you're a kid, she's an adult, but because you didn't have your mother anymore, like, just the fact that she said, well, I'll be, let's be friends, or it had
or
an optimism.
A father even.
Yeah, that's true.
For a while, anyways.
Yeah, and it was just sort of hope for the future, that you'll have some sort of mother or father figure in your life. What was Piper Laurie like? Because she's a phenomenal actress. I love her in The Hustler and so many great films. What was she like?
Again, it's funny because at that age, I didn't know who she was.
Yeah, I didn't recognize her at first when I was watching it. I didn't, and then I was like, oh my god, like, she looked. I did not, and she used to do these really serious, dramatic parts, and she's so funny in this. Like, it's such a different role.
That's the one thing I did hear before. So beforehand, going into this, I hadn't seen any of her work, but I knew that I had the knowledge that she was a big name actor, and that she was pretty much the legend she is. So I didn't know that going in, but I hadn't seen anything. And I also did know that, most of her work consisted of, like, drama and whatnot. So it was just the constant talk around set, how freaking hilarious she was, and how she was just making everybody, the whole crew and cast just die all the time. And the way that
funny in it.
Yeah, and I don't even know if she was like meaning to be funny, because the way that she would just deliver her lines, like, she just has this like naturalism about her, and this like straightforwardness about her, like matter of fact, where like it's almost dry, I guess, humor, where it's just out there, and then she doesn't even like think about it or react, and it's like, do you realize like what you just sounded like right now? So yeah, she was a kick for sure. We had a decent amount of time to to talk and to build up a relationship. And then she's the sweetest. I remember that we had this after party after rapping, and it was at like some like bar club or whatever. I don't even know where it was, but yeah, I was wondering who was going to be going and everything, who was going to be showing up. And then someone told me that Piper was going to be coming, and everyone was like, she's probably not going to be wanting to come to like a club, like she's an older lady. And then I found out that that she told someone that she wanted to come say bye to me for like the last time. So I was just like, oh my god, like you came to a club to say bye.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, because I've always loved her. Carrie, so many great films. So this is what really fascinates me, even more so, is that here you are, you lead in this film, and you're in a number of different other movies and some TV shows, and then you go and really pursue hockey at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So why did you decide to do that?
Well, I was playing, as I mentioned before. I don't know if it was while we were recording or when we were talking before, but I've been playing hockey since I was 2 years old.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually started playing hockey before I was acting then. So I was always doing both simultaneously. I was, I love the arts, but at the same time, I also love sports. I played every sport growing up and through high school as well. But it was always hockey for me. That was my main passion when it came to sports. So I was just acting and playing hockey simultaneously. I was able to balance both all through all these projects. There were times where through these projects though, I had to sign an agreement that I wasn't allowed to play, because obviously if I got hurt then so like there were times where like I had to pause but during shooting, but obviously I was playing in between auditioning and in between projects and whatnot. So I had both these things going for me, both my passions flowing. And and then I was around 16 years old when I started getting to the point of like my level at hockey where I was like, you know what, like maybe I can, like, I'm good enough to take this to school. Actually, like it could be a thing, I can use it. So I played a little bit more in LA, travel hockey in LA, where we still go state to state, and sometimes Canada, whatnot, and play international teams. So it was competitive, but still not as competitive like it is out on the East Coast, kind of close to where you are. You know how it is out there.
Yeah,
so oh yeah. You very much heard the Canadian accent there.
Yeah. Yeah, it from visiting here, and you had mentioned before recording you have family here as well, right? So yeah, you know what, it's very much it's a very much a part of our culture, that's for sure.
It's a thing, it's ingrained for sure. Yeah. So I balanced them both my whole life pretty much, and then I got to that point, and I was at a tournament, playing at a tournament in California, and then had some prep schools, some New England preparatory schools come up to me after the games, and they sometimes when they're scouting, go to different coaches and select different players that they want to talk to after games, and tell them about their school or whatever. So I got selected by a few different schools, and they're just talking to me about what it'd be like to go there and everything, and playing for them and going to school at the same time and living on campus and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And this is like, it sounds like a fantasy almost.
Yeah.
It really does, like going away to, some New England boarding school and playing, hockey, living on campus, like this, rink being on campus, like traveling and living with the team, like that'd be awesome. And then I was, okay, kind of like thinking about it some more. And at some point I was, being pretty serious about taking hockey to a certain level. So I either had to, if I wanted to use it for college, which was my goal at that point, I wanted to play college hockey so I can, just have the time of my life and play hockey for as long as I think is good for my body's longevity, and then at the same time, so I can either pay for or get a scholarship for school and go to a good New England school, or and then eventually after I'm done with that, come back and pursue acting. And that was what I was starting to think. I was starting to get those thoughts in my head, and starting to actually go do tours at some of these schools and see the facilities and stuff, and talk to the coaches and whatnot. And it was getting very exciting. And then I was still auditioning a lot at the same time, and then at one point I was very conflicted with what I should do. And I remember meeting with my manager at the time, and just talking with some other family and friends, and pretty much the overbearing advice was that you have like an unlimited amount of time to act, but there's a timestamp when it comes to playing hockey.
Right.
So
right, of course.
you should pursue that, pick up where you left off when you come back. And I still had plans to I was still going to continue training and reading scripts, and doing self tapes here and there, things like that. I was also in the plays at my my prep school, so I was still acting, but I just wasn't in the scene going out for as many auditions like I was before. So
it's interesting that I would have thought that your
Yeah.
managers and agents would have been like, you can't walk away from this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the classic Hollywood kid actors, like they just were no, you're not leaving, sort of thing. So that's great that you had
Definitely.
someone supportive of you and understanding of where you were at in your age.
Yes, I
too.
definitely had she's amazing. I had a great supporting manager who definitely put my needs forward first. And yeah, I mean, after everyone was telling me all these things, I was also dealing with a lot of like very close calls, like when it came to booking other projects, like just a lot of very close calls where I would book something and then the funding would fall through, or it'd come down to like me and like one other actor, and then I eventually ended up not making the not getting the job. So there was a string of those for sure. And I was at the same time continuing auditioning, doing this hockey thing, going to touring the schools. So then I was like yeah, like maybe I could do that. Like if I stay here, I can keep this going, and everything might work out, might not work out. But if I go play hockey, then I still will have this. And yeah, things might be different when I come back, but I don't want to have any regrets of not trying.
Right.
And because I can, no matter what, I can still act in the end. So
of course, yeah, of
if
course.
I chose to stay, then I wouldn't have been able to play at all, or get the opportunity to go to school like I wanted to. So eventually that's what I decided to do. And for around like 3.5 years, I spent 2 years at the boarding school, and then a year playing junior hockey in New Hampshire. And then after that, I was just dealing with a lot of injuries. I was getting beaten the hell up.
Oh, right.
So
yes.
Yeah, I'm a little guy. I'm 5'9", and I'm going up against like 6+ players. So and I'm a goalie too. So a lot of pucks and knees and whatnot to the head. So I had a lot of concussions. I had to get dislocated shoulders. Had to get hip surgery.
Oh wow.
Had to go to like a cognitive therapist for a while, actually, to work with these symptoms, on managing them that I had for these concussions, because there were certain periods of time where I would be diagnosed and I had to step away. I wasn't allowed to play, and I had to go through all the protocols. And I was diagnosed a few times, and I was really starting to see these symptoms coming into place, and dealing with a lot of anxiety that came with it. And it just really put me on edge. And I was in a very tough time in my life where I was like, I need to stick with the plan, and push forward, go to school with this. but at the same time, like health always comes first. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, I can't persevere past, health. Like I can persevere past other things, but not that one. So change of plans. I guess I'm not gonna finish through with this one. I'm
Right.
gonna get back to LA. And I mean, it's always one of those things where, you think about like what could have gone differently, like, all the what ifs and everything. But in the end, I'm just glad that I got back, earlier. So than I would have expected to. So I could get, a head start of my original plan. So that's kind of where, that all led me to. And yeah, so now I'm permanently, been in LA. And yeah, just been auditioning, been working, been making my own content, just living life.
Was it just going back to, I'm curious because I'm always fascinated by athletes, and when you were mentioning your injuries, I was thinking of the football film Friday Night Lights. I don't know if you've seen that,
Oh
where
yeah.
the football player gets hurt and he can't play anymore, and when he's crying to his father that it's over for him. So because as you're right with with acting, I mean, unless someone cut off your legs and arms, you can still do it, right? But with athletes, it's like enough
Yeah.
injuries can just end it. So was that devastating for you, or what was that like emotionally?
I mean, it definitely was. It was definitely tough because I felt like I had a very, I have a very strong work ethic, and when it comes to when it comes to talking about work ethic in the arts versus work ethic in sports, it's different. Like
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think like when you talk about, it's an interesting conversation. Like I think when you talk about work ethic in the arts, it's a lot more calculative because if you actually want to be productive and efficient when you speak about work ethic, because it's creative and there's certain things you need to do to be productive. But when it comes to sports, like I love the simplicity of it, of just how simple it is to know that you are putting in the work. Like if you are, if you're putting in the workouts, if you're putting in the 100% on the ice, you're putting in the right nutrition in your body, and everything is very black and white of like what you need to do to be good, which I also
Right.
love.
Right.
And on the flip side, so yeah, the whole point of that was like I always just push through. I always just had the motto that I just gotta keep going, just keep pushing through it. So I felt like for the first time I was at a point in my life where I had to actually tell myself no this time, and to be smart, and to just humble myself down, because I mean I was definitely nervous about a lot of things, like oh, I failed my plan, oh, I
Right. Right.
if I go forward with this I might hurt my body even more, or oh, I've already gone this far, so what's the point now? Like obviously all those things come into play. So um it definitely took was a factor. But yeah, I mean, to just not really have, since it was my body, and I still deal with injuries right now too, like I felt like I didn't have control to to push past this. It wasn't a work ethic thing, it was something that was beyond that I had to,
Yeah.
out of my control, that I had to
Right.
accept.
Right. Wow, what a story. I mean, yeah, I've always been just really fascinated by when those careers have to end, and I can imagine that would be devastating. But at least on the flip side, you love acting so much that you still had something that you could continue, right, and jump right into.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's always one thing I tell myself, because there's a lot of athletes who they aren't as eclectic when it comes to other passions or hobbies. They might just really have that one lane, that one
That's right.
focus. And
That's right.
especially for professional athletes who devote all their time, like once they
Yeah.
stop playing sports professionally, like they're like, what the hell do I do with my life? And a lot of
Right.
them get
Right.
very depressed and anxious, and have a lot of mental health issues, because it's like it's
Yeah.
tough to transition from that lifestyle to something completely new,
And
and that's all
yeah. And
for
what are you gonna
years.
do? Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah. Wow.
yeah, you get it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Just jumping into manage. Janaé, because I really, again, really enjoyed the pilot. Obviously working with your friends was of interest to you, but was there something about the content of that story that you found interesting?
For sure. Well, yeah, to back it up, we've been saying that we've been wanting to work on something for a while. I've read some of her, shorts and features before. She's written so many great projects. I love her writing. She's so talented. But we're just like, we need to like shoot something. Like we're gonna make a short. Okay, let's do something. And then so she types, writes out manage, and then which I had like 13 other names before manage. And then she sends it over to me, and I was just like laughing like as soon as I read it. And I just love the wittiness behind it of her writing, but I also just love all of the I love the idea of playing this movie star who doesn't want to deal with having to stay up to date with all these social medias and having to, just wants to act and all the pressure that comes from all that, and wanting to just be real. And I thought that was really fun to play, but then at the same time him just being this like very over dramatic, snobby over the top actor who then gets replaced by an influencer. It's just like, I love these themes because these are all themes that are like so relevant right now, where
absolutely
it's just this actor who has the talent but doesn't want to have that social part, I guess. But then you just have influencers who are just sweeping in with that following base.
Right,
and
right.
So I really like the themes. I really like the just the themes that it touched on and within our pop culture. And I love the fact that I got to do a British accent. I love doing British accents, so it was fun to do. I really wanted to do. At first, we were gonna do Cockney because that's just my favorite. But then we were like, no, it needs to be more of like a blend between Cockney and like maybe more like RP, because not RP, but maybe just a little bit more formal, because he's very proper. Comes from the theater.
Yeah.
So
no, it works so well.
Yeah. So that was definitely fun to work on that, because it is a lot of dialogue. So breaking it down, that was really fun.
I love the transition between being like, oh, I'm done with this because of the, and then once it was gone, you wanted it back, right? It's like, it's I love the that switch, which was so interesting because you didn't. It's like you want to act, but you don't want to do all this other stuff that goes with it. But it's almost as if you can't if you get rid of one, then it's all gone.
Yeah, exactly. Nowadays, gotta keep both up to date. Yeah, exactly. So like obviously that's something that's like very relevant in a lot of people's life, let alone my own, as I'm continuing to act and audition and work. And I'm not the biggest social media guy, and I am not the type of person to have that influencer loud personality and taking like constantly creating content. I'm not really into it, to be honest. I do try to post as much as possible, but like I don't know, I like to be off my phone and away from technology as much as possible. So I definitely especially like from the acting side of it, it bothers a lot of actors that the talent doesn't come first, and that productions are just production companies are just going for people with following bases to promote. So of course that's like a huge topic and theme.
Yes.
So obviously those things are already relevant within my life. So to just like exploit them in this satirical way was just pretty fun, because I've done I really love to just focus on drama, and I've done some comedy here and there. I'm definitely trained a lot in comedy, but drama is my favorite. So that's like my bread and butter. That's what I love to do. That's my passion. But to take on not only just a comedy but a satirical film was like a different challenge for me, where I was like a little nervous and a little like timid at first, and on top with the accents and everything. And I was just like, what, I just if I'm feeling that, then I just gotta do it. And we were working with that script for a little while, and made a lot of different changes. And And yeah, and then finally banged it out in like 2 days, and she has some really great ideas to progress it.
No, that's incredible. And I like I said, I really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to seeing the other episodes. And what are you, I know you shot another short film with Janaé recently, Contract
Yeah,
Player.
Contract Player. Yeah, exactly.
Are you working on anything else at the moment? Anything that we can look forward to?
Yeah, so so that's gonna be coming out in most likely a few months. Really looking forward to seeing that. That was such a fun shoot.
Yeah, she was telling me
takes
about the story and it sounded really, really
yeah, it
good.
takes place in the 50s and all, which is so that was
Yeah.
fun to throw on a 50s suit, and that's why I actually had to cut my hair. My hair
Oh
used
yeah.
to be down to my
Yeah, I
shoulders.
noticed on your Instagram it was quite long.
Yeah. So I had to fit the time period. So it looked,
Right.
yeah, the footage and everything just looks so amazing, and the story's amazing. And yeah, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to even just see some stills right now.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we got that coming out, and then I'm working on another project called Low Kings. It's another short. It's another short film. That'll be, we're gonna, we haven't locked in on our shoot date yet, but we're looking like middle of March.
Okay, great. Well, I look forward to hearing that.
Yeah.
Hearing more
and
about
just
that.
Yeah, and then just auditioning in the meantime, working on scenes in class as always, writing. I try to always have different outlets.
Yeah. No, I absolutely. I just very lastly wanted to, again, I really appreciate spending so much time talking to me today. I just want to just lastly ask, Janaé actually hated this question because she felt like she was on the spot. But I was curious, if you had to name 5 films that you love the most, what would they be?
Ooh.
It's always a tough one.
All right, number 1, The Place Beyond the Pines.
Oh, that's a great film. Yeah, I like that as well.
Number 2, Boyhood.
Yeah.
Number 3, Lords of Dogtown.
Oh, good one.
Number 4, number 4. Oh fuck! You put me on the spot.
Everyone reacts this way. It's very difficult.
Let me think. I think I have a list of my favorite films. I actually literally made a list of this a while ago, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's a good one actually. So I have 2 more to pick, right?
Yes, yeah. Give me a couple more.
2 more to pick from this great list of mine. I'm gonna have to go with Into the Wild.
Oh, that's great. I love
that. Fuck, this is tough, man. Because I almost feel like I want to break it into like categories. And I feel like I have to represent across the board well.
Yeah, I know. I always feel tempted with that as well.
You know what? Fuck it. I'll represent across the board by throwing in a musical, and I'll say Across the Universe.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great. Awesome. Great stuff. Well, Devin, thanks so much for taking the time to come on. I really appreciate it. It was great getting to know you, and please come again sometime.
Definitely will, man. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, you as well. And I know you said you're not a huge poster on Instagram.
I'll share. Don't worry. I'll share.
No, but is that the best place for people to find you? Is what I
yeah. So
okay.
I don't really do Twitter.
Okay.
So yeah, just hit me up on Instagram. It's at I'm Devin Brochu. Should be able to find me. Just a picture holding some flowers.
Awesome. Okay. I'll leave the link in the description box below for where people can get in touch with Devin there. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. If you are currently listening to this on the audio version of the podcast and you've run out of episodes to listen to, head over to the YouTube channel where every single episode that I've ever recorded can be found. Go to youtube.com/Robert Bellissimo at the movies. I want to also mention that I am on Patreon. Patreon is an exclusive membership where people who sign up receive bonus content every single month. All of the content that I provide for my Patreon members is based on polls. So you vote on everything that you want to see, and you'll therefore be very much part of the decision-making as to what I record on Patreon every single month exclusively for you. It's just a few bucks a month, and it is a great help for content creators such as myself to make an income while providing free content on YouTube and audio platforms and all sorts of things that other artists use Patreon for as well. So head over to patreon.com/Robert Bellissimo at the movies for full details. And lastly, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing to my channel by pressing the Robert Bellissimo at the movies logo. You will see it floating above my head right here to your top left in the corner in just a second. Just click on that and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release a new video or when I go live on YouTube. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you in the next episode.